Hey everybody, Mike here with another Transformers Rise of the Beasts video, and while I'm sure it's pretty obvious based on the title, this video will have heavy spoilers regarding the post-credits scene for the upcoming film. So, click away right now if you don't want to get spoiled. Okay, still here? Super sure that you just want to get spoiled? Alright, here we go. Now, this is a crazy spoiler, as this pretty big news has somehow been kept a secret for so long, until last week when Hollywood scooper Daniel Richtman informed his Patreon subscribers not exactly about the post-credits scene specifically, but what the post-credits scene sets up for the future. And then most recently, a reporter at the Singapore world premiere spilled the beans when she asked a question about specifics regarding the post-credits scene.
So we all saw the end credit. I hope this is not this interview would come out after or before. Anyway, so where are we going?
Spoiler alert!
I don't know where. Yeah, okay,
Spoiler, super.
Spoiler. But where are we going? What can you say about the development?
In fact, after the question was answered, Anthony Ramos, who is playing the character Noah in the film, jokingly asked if anyone had the devices from the Men in Black films to erase everyone's memory.
Yeah, does anybody have the thing in Men in Black? You know the thing that they use?
It is definitely unfortunate that this was accidentally revealed at an official press conference, as I was very much not expecting to be hit with the news while watching it. While I did hear rumors about how this could affect the future films, I did not know that a reveal would actually be happening in the post-credits sequence of Rise of the Beasts. While we don't know the exact details regarding the post-credits scene yet and how everything plays out, what we do know is that it introduces another Hasbro property into the Transformers universe, G.I. Joe. Yep, the Transformers movies are now finally doing their first crossover. And after the entire cinematic universe plan ended up overstuffing Transformers The Last Knight, leading to its downfall, it's hard to say that I'm super excited for this. I'm more concerned about it potentially leading to the same results with the failure of that movie. And while answering the reporter's question about the G.I. Joe crossover, producer Lorenzo de Bonaventura noted that it's something they had considered for a very long time, but there never felt like a natural way to incorporate the Joes into the Transformers movies. That is, of course, until Transformers Rise of the Beasts. When director Stephen Caple Jr. came on board as the director, he immediately started to push for the crossover to happen, and according to Lorenzo, there seemed to finally be a way to naturally merge the two franchises.
Stephen came aboard and was immediately pushing in that direction. And thankfully, the movie really sort of led us to a nice way to bring it together.
Caple Jr. went on to say that the scene was held very close to the vest, with it not being dropped into the final cut of the movie until less than 2 weeks ago, and none of the actors knew about it either, including Michael Kelly, who appears in that post-credits scene. While we don't know the extent of Kelly's role just yet, he does seem to be playing some type of government agent, potentially a Sector 7 agent, as seen in one of the first Rise of the Beast TV spots.
We are in the middle of a war.
He had no idea about the G.I. Joe crossover until the very day he shot the post-credits scene. Now, while it is confirmed he's in the post-credits scene, we don't know whether or not he's the character who reveals the existence of the Joes, or if someone else tells his character about them. What we do know is that it is already confirmed that the Joes will have a role in the next Transformers film, according to Lorenzo de Bonaventura.
For sure, it's going to play a part in the next movie. It's too good, and the audience reaction has been really gratifying to that very small but very cool little beat.
As far as how big of a role they'll play, we'll have to wait and find out until the next movie. Now, with the heated prequel and reboot debate still happening, and every answer we get seems to conflict with other answers, I'd say incorporating the G.I. Joe IP further distances these movies from the Michael Bay films, since there is obviously no mention of the Joes in Transformers 1 through 5, which would all take place after Rise of the Beasts in the timeline. But that also leads to another question. Do any of the previous G.I. Joe films now become canon in the Transformers universe? And to that I say, I hope not. Now, we can already rule out G.I. Joe Rise of the Cobra and Retaliation, as the 2009 and 2013 films were rebooted in 2021 with Snake Eyes. Not to mention that the Joe Colton character is played by Bruce Willis, who is now retired from acting. While many people were confused on what Snake Eyes was, a prequel or a reboot, it was always meant to be a fresh start for the franchise, and even Lorenzo de Bonaventura, who refuses to call Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts a reboot of the base series, had no problem whatsoever calling Snake Eyes a reboot rather than a prequel. The movie is only 2 years old, but there are a few problems that arise if they do try to connect the film to the last two Transformers films, Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts. If we look at in-universe continuity, Snake Eyes portrays the origin of the character and Storm Shadow in modern times, while the Transformers movies are still currently in the 90s. Also, there's the fact that if they do consider Snake Eyes canon, that means the Transformers universe now has giant monster snakes that can sense if someone has a pure heart.
Giant anacondas, as all this time. They never harm those who are pure of heart.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say I'd be a big fan of that. Now, if we look at real-world issues, the Snake Eyes movie was a huge failure both critically and commercially. It currently sits at a 5.4 out of 10 user rating on IMDb and has a 35% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The box office numbers were horrible as well, even though we can definitely place at least a little bit of that blame on COVID. The film had a domestic opening of just $13 million for a total of $28 million by the end of its run, and it finished with a grand total of $40 million worldwide. On a roughly $88 million budget, the film was a massive loss for Paramount Pictures. For comparison, 2009's Rise of the Cobra finished with $302 million worldwide, while 2013's Retaliation finished with $376 million. So while I'm personally not a huge fan of this crossover, as I want my Transformers movies to be about Transformers, I do hope that Paramount does the right thing and once again reboots the G.I. Joe film franchise. Attempting to work Snake Eyes into this Transformers universe is not a great way to start off this IP crossover on the right foot. So what do you guys think about this crossover that we'll be seeing in the next movie? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button for the latest Transformers news and theories. And I guess G.I. Joe news as well. I guess this channel will now be partly about G.I. Joe moving forward. Signing out, I'm Mike. See you next time.